Good afternoon, everyone. This is a continuing that discussion on the essay. How should one read a book? This is the paragraph that starts in the second page of our print text, printed material. Where you have the paragraph with one, but when you attempt to reconstruct it in words, you will find that it breaks into 1,000 conflicting impressions. Some must be subdued, others emphasized. In the process, you will lose probably all grasp upon the emotion itself. That is already explained. How difficult it is to write down something. Unlike when you recall it from here and there, some experiences, some of the events that you witnessed. It's entirely different an experience. When you turn, then you turn from your blood and littered pages into the opening pages of some great novelists. Now, about novel, how to approach some novelists, how different they are in their mastery about dealing with certain themes, you will be better able to appreciate their mastery. But if you find it difficult, at least to put something, some of your casual experiences in words, into words, it's like you are going to write down something about a scene that you witnessed, about an experience of yours. Even in that case, you find it very difficult. Then definitely you will appreciate such master novelists or any other writers. How how much intelligent they are, how much skillful they are. Their mastery is to be appreciated. It is not merely that we are in the presence of a different person, like Defoe, Jane Austen, or Thomas Hardy, but that we are living in a different world. Think about you are reading a novel and you feel like you're getting transported into another realm. You're one with the characters. Sometimes you identify with the characters. You feel for them. Robinson Crusoe's loneliness, which later turns to be a kind of aloneness, the way, the courage he holds to build up his life from where there is nothing in the beginning, but later how he establishes a world of his own without the help of too many people. And we are trudging a plain high road. One thing happens after another. Think about the way events, the plot, development of plot in novels. Like one thing happens after another. You have to think, yeah, during this time, our stream of consciousness technique, nothing got established. At least one thing happens after another. Still, they were thinking about this in modern time. They were thinking about actually giving aversion or at least a chance for stream of consciousness technique, how to bring that effect in novel writing. Still, a linear plot or traditional plot, it's in most often it is one thing happening after another in a very linear fashion, whatever it may be. The writing technique, the way narration goes on, it will astonish you. Their skill, their writing skill will astonish you. You will stuck with wonder how deep their understanding of the character, their the drawing, the portrait of such characters, how beautiful it is. You feel a respect for them. The fact and the order of the fact is enough, and you will definitely feel that yeah they demand or they deserve a bit of respect. But if the open air and adventure mean everything to Defoe, they mean nothing to Jane Austen. Now she talks about the differences in all these writers. Most of them are very established. Still, for one person, if adventure, open air, those are very important for Defoe, Daniel Defoe. When you talk, if you talk in terms of Robinson Crusoe, or if you take that as one of his one of his magnum opus, okay, one of his. If you take that novel as his magnum opus, the best among his literary product, creative list, it is always open air adventure. See, think about that open air adventure. Those are important for Defoe. But think about Jane Austen. She doesn't have anything to, her novels do not have anything to do with these themes. She is drawn towards drawing room, the women, they are gathering, people talking. She's more of a, she expresses her passion towards people, their gathering, their bondage, family, familiar circle, the strain and stress, at least, or then coming into a conclusion of the events. All those are part and parcel of Jane Austen's writings. Most of the novels take the same kind of themes. Think about Pride and Prejudice, Mansfield Park, whichever it may be. You can see such women, their drawing room, their drawing rooms, their conversations, familial bondage, all those. And by the many mirrors of their talk revealing their characters. How do we get an idea about the characters in Jane Austen's novel? It's not about she is like this, she lives here and there. No. Within their talks, their conversations mirror, they give notion, idea about their characters and lifestyle. In Jane Austen, you get the character sketch in one way. In Defoe, you may not expect that method. So they are different in their approach towards themes, character building, everything. And if when we have accustomed ourselves to the drawing room and its reflections, we turn to Hardy. Yeah, okay, you read a number of novels by Jane Austen. You are accustomed to read such novels. Sometimes, some people are interested in certain kinds of writings, like some are interested only in science fiction, some like pulp fiction, some are passionate towards, what do you say, adventurous novels. Some are attracted towards ghost stories. Dracula, all the versions, all the volumes of Dracula you would like to read. And you are accustomed to that. Then immediately you turn to Hardy, Thomas Hardy, one of the other prominent figures, writers. We have once more spun around. What kinds of novels are written by Hardy? Thomas Hardy. Just try to recollect a few, like Chess of the Jabberwocks, Far from the Madding Crowd. So all those novels you try to think about the characters, at least the themes. I'm sure you got introduced to a few in your History of English Literature paper. And the moons are around us and the stars are above our heads. Yeah, he's fond of representing nature. Second person who is really truly interested in bringing nature in his novels. So if you think about Hardy's novels, Hardy's themes, it's almost like the other side of the mind is now exposed, the dark side that comes uppermost in solitude, and not the light side that shows in company. Hardy also represents human life. Even though many characters are there, almost all of his main characters are suffering in a kind of inner solitude. Whether it is about Tess, she has a lot of family members. She has lover, she has husband, everyone. But she holds a kind of constant solitude. She's in a situation where she cannot share all her problems. Even those people who are very dear to her are not with her when she is in want of support, moral support, emotional support. So we come across such characters in Hardy, unlike the drawing room portrayals in Jane Austen, where you have people gather, they converse, they go for matchmaking, they go for ball, BALL ball, not in the sense of that, gaming thing, but something like dance, songs, people dance together. In between, the grown-ups make matchmaking. They go on with the matchmaking. Yeah, she's a perfect match for him. He's a perfect match for her. This is the way Jane Austen portrayals and characterization go like. But here in Hardy we can see something entirely different. Our relations are not towards people even, but towards nature and destiny. Nature has a lot to do in in any of Hardy's novels. Yet different as these words are, each is consistent with itself. But you cannot say that the drawing room is far better or the nature portrayal is far better. Each has its own significance. Each has its own significance. And each one is consistent in itself. That is the mastery of the writer. That shows the mastery of the writers. The maker of each is careful to observe the laws of his own perspective. Maker of each means the novelist. Novelist is careful. A writer of, but again, she's specifically talking about novel here. You don't have to take it in a broader spectrum. We will talk about poetry separately. She will talk about the poetry at a later stage, biography and criticism in between. So we will talk about each different in a separate fashion. So here you can think about novelists particularly. So careful to observe the laws of his own perspective. His or her own actually. Her own perspective. And however great as fame they may put upon us, they will never confuse us, as lesser writers so frequently do. That's why she takes very prominent novelists who have already proven themselves, their skill, their mastery in novel writing. Unlike the inferior writers, she definitely talks about inferior writers who uh, say creativity or who devalue creativity for financial grounds. Pulp fiction. Sometimes we say like that. But nowadays we see a lot of people who are drawn towards that type as well. That is something of a choice, something related with people's choice. But actually, when you talk in terms of the mastery of a writer, it's something different. It is not dependent upon anyone's choice, or not even upon the choice of the majority, but what is contained within that, or how the writer approaches the theme. So these people never will confuse us with the different kinds of themes. You read Jane Austen, at the same time you read Hardy, the same time you read Defoe and any other writers. They never confuse. They will never confuse because they have their own consistency, maintained balance in their writings. And lesser writers so frequently do by introducing two different kinds of reality into the same book. Sometimes that is happening. They try to bring all stuff together. This is not part of your genius. It's a lack actually. It's a lack. So actually these prominent or established writers are not doing all this to confuse us. You are perfectly fine, comfortable reading their texts, even though they discuss different themes in different ways, different style of writing, different language style. All those do not affect your grasping of their themes, the way they mean or the way they try to explain. Thus, to go from one great novelist to another, from Jane Austen to Hardy, from Peacock to Trollope, from Scott to Meredith, all those are prominent figures in history of English literature, in that area of literature, is to be wrenched and uprooted. Wrenched, what do you mean by wrenched? It's almost like, you are taken violently from one place to another. One novel you come across a very open space, fully balanced by nature. Nature is dominating there. The next moment you come to a well-established familial drawing room. So it's almost like a process of wrenching and uprooting. To be thrown this way and then that. To read a novel is a difficult and complex art. No one will say to be no. No one will say that no, it's wrong. The sentence is applicable to most of us. Everyone finds it very difficult with reading and all. The complete grasping is really difficult because it's pages and pages of the. Your interpretation of one novel in 2020 may not be the same when you read the same novel in 2025. So all those are with our interpretation, our perspective wise changes. The refinement in our language competence. All this promote that, or all these influence, all these factors, features influence our other novel reading, and it's the enjoyment or comprehension. All these will be equally or mutually dependent. Then you must be capable not only of great fineness or perception. One thing it's about great fineness and perception that is needed. Fine. But not only that, but of great boldness of imagination. That is another important feature or a characteristic demanded out of a reader or interpreter or any writer. Just think about writing process also. Great fineness of perception. You have better perception and all. But think about the audacity, the courage, boldness demanded out of writers. Think about Madhavi Kuri. The open, the confessional writers of any kind. They are bold. Apart from their being imaginative, they have power of imagination to express their points in words, to publish that, and to expect the harsh criticism for their being open. They anticipate and they expect everything and they are ready to accept that. They are ready to face that. So that boldness is part, a very important part, either of writing as well as of interpretation as well. If you are going to make use of all that, the novelist, the great artist gives you. And in the interpretation process also, your boldness of imagination and perception, the fineness, the perfection of perception is needed, must. Because if you are going to make use of all this, you are going to be a very good interpreter. The great artist gives you. The novelist is giving you a lot. The provisions are open in their writings, in their theme development. But provided that you can make use of that in the way and then these novels deserve. Next paragraph. But at the glance, at the heterogeneous company, at a glance at the heterogeneous company on the shelf will show you that writers are very seldom great artists. But another point. Now, in this part, she is going to talk about. Well, just write down that. I will type down that for you here. I'll take from there. But at a glance, the heterogeneous company on the shelf, that means a lot of books are available to you in the library, will show you that writers are very seldom great artists. All the writers are not, all of them are great artists. Far more, often a book makes no claim to be a work of art at all. Sometimes you think that this is a work of art. Sometimes certain books make us feel like this is not a work of art at all because of the lack of quality. Some of the essential qualities that you expect or demand, or the literary circle in general demands from those books. Now she turns to biographies. These biographies and autobiographies, she's not really fond of that type of literature, types of works like biographies and autobiographies. For example, lives of great men. What do you get from all these lives of great men, of men long dead and forgotten? Then, in biography, you normally come across such great men and their lives. Sometimes long dead, sometimes even forgotten in the history. then that stand, cheek by jowl with the novels and poems, are we to refuse to read them because they are not art? Now she asked the question, should we completely stay away from reading those? A type of literary, that also is type of art, but actually most often those lack qualities. That's what she wants to say, point out. And should we completely stay away from, are we to refuse to read them? Should we do like that? Should we take such a stand? Because they are not art? Then, or shall we read them, but read them in a different way, with a different aim? Okay, we should not completely stay away from reading them, but we can take a different stand towards those, that reading. Now, we can read it in a different way, with a different aim. What is that? Yes. So, shall we read them in the first place to satisfy that curiosity? Possesses us sometimes when in the evening we linger in front of a house where the lights are lit and the blinds not yet drawn, and each floor of the house shows us different section of human life in being. So, isn't it the same curiosity that draws us towards a house where lights are lit, and you are interested towards the people who are living there? Not everyone is with the stand of living and let others live. Some people want to interrupt others' lives. Most of the people actually want to interrupt others' life freedom. They want to know a lot about others' lives. How do they live? How do they earn? After earning, what do they do? What is the aim? What is the age at which they are going to get married? When they will be having children? All these details you people want to know. People in general, or majority, stay interested in. Majority people stay interested in all these. And the same kind of curiosity actually, she says that leads us to read such biographies and autobiographies. Okay? That is, each floor of the house shows us a different section of human life in being. And you are interested in looking into the details. The same way, when we are consumed with the curiosity about the lives of these people, when you see the lives of people in detail in such biographies and autobiographies, the servants gossiping, the gentleman dining, the girl dressing for a party, then the old woman at the window with her knitting. Who are they? What are they? What are their names, their occupations, their thoughts and adventures? The same kind of yet another kind of questions that come across in your mind, in those people's mind who are badly fond of interrupting others' lives. In the same way, she says that Woolf finds that the curiosity that we hold towards biographies and autobiographies are mostly of this kind. So try to have a briefing of this paragraph where the writer talks about works lacking quality, then biography and autobiography, our reading and approaching towards that, and the question, the purpose of reading biographical or autobiographical books. Hope that idea is clear for you. Then now you go back to the paragraph once the class is over. Then you will get a proper idea, notion about it. Okay. Then next paragraph. That next paragraph, the briefing will be like we will come across a lot of theoretical aspects here. We will discuss that together. Biographies and memoirs. Told you the pronunciation, to note down the pronunciation. Biographies and memoirs. Memoirs are also of a kind of offering or paying respect to other people. Answer such questions. Light up innumerable such houses. Actually, you get a lot of details about a person's life. They show us people going about their daily affairs, toiling, failing, succeeding, eating, hating, loving, until they die. That's in detail you get. And sometimes as we watch the house, and sometimes as we watch the house fades and the iron railings vanish and we are out at sea. We are hunting, sailing, fighting, we are among savages and soldiers. We are taking part in great campaigns. So we are busy. Those people had been busy. We are having we have busy schedules in our own lives. So why should we go and interrupt in others' lives? It's a question of relevance. Still you are interested. You're curious about knowing. You're curious about interrupting, giving your opinions. So that is it. And if we like to stay here in England, in London, still the scene changes. Now she will talk about something very important. If we like to stay here in England or in London, these two place names stand for some of the geographical localities. Still the scene changes. What does she mean by that? We will come across that. The street narrows, the house becomes small, cramped, diamond pant, and malodorous. We see a poet driven from such a house. Now, the possible changes in geography, that's different nations, different localities, as the time passes, is one of the themes, one of the points in this particular area, particular paragraph. Like, think about Donne, one of the prominent poets, driven from such a house because the walls were so thin that when the children cried, their voices cut through them. We can follow him through the paths that lie in the pages of books, to Tickenham, to Lady Bedford's Park, a famous meeting ground for nobles and poets. And then turn our step to Wilton, another person. So this is it. You are in search of their biographies. Even when you are reading, when you say that I am going to read the poet, still you are interested in their biographical details. Some poems essentially demand it. That is one part. And the great house under the dawns. And here Sidney read the Arcadia to his sister. So she's very sarcastically remarking or interest towards different writers' lives and minute details, like Arcadia. It's a writing by Philip Sidney. It's a poem. Arcadia to his sister, and ramble among the very marshes and see the very herons that figure in that famous romance. And then herons are yes. And then again travel north with that other Lady Pembroke and Clifford to her wild moors. So certain details, you come across as part of their surface level biography itself, like which place is immediately connected with which and which writers. When you talk about W.B. Yeats, Ireland, Irish National Revival, all those are connected with their life, and some of his writings also are intricately connected with that. But certain writers, their geographical localities, all those do not have much to do with. Still you are interested, you are in search of them. Are you? Or are we? And again, while more or plunge into the city and control our merriment at the sight of Gabriel Harvey. So many other writers, a lot of writers are listed out. That's all. And how interested sometimes we are in their biographical search details. Black velvet. So in his black velvet suit, arguing about poetry with Spencer. So in London and Britain, you come across these writers. In Indian writing, and you think about India, you name a lot of them altogether. They have a lot to do with the literature. But every time you should not be in search of their biographical details or such other details. Then, Nothing is more fascinating. Nothing is more fascinating than to grope and stumble. Grope means to handle, to attempt, to find something in the dark actually. To grope, actually nothing is more fascinating than to grope and stumble in the alternate darkness and splendor of Elizabethan London. Actually, you have a very active history, especially during Elizabethan time. The conflicts, the internal and external affairs of the nation. But there is no staying there. Right? Yeah, you can be in search of history. You can visit London, you can visit any other Western nations, or those people belonging to Western Hemisphere can come to India, visit here. But actually, in literature, when you are in search of the details of the writers for the sake of understanding their writings, that is for the time being. There is no staying there. The temples and the ships, the Harleys and the St. John beckon us on, or upon hour, can be spent dismantling their quarrels and deciphering their characters. So even the characters of these writers, almost all of them are prominent figures, like temples, the swifts. Like even think about that. Can you do you ever say like saying someone's name and the George, the Trump? No. But these writers sometimes to talk about them, the whole of their body of writing. You mentioned like you put an article in front of their names. Like how does it become Swifts? It's about Jonathan Swift. So their position, prominence in the literary circle is again and again emphasized. But still, yeah, you can think about them, you can study them hour and hour, taking hours and hours, trying to decipher their lives, characters. And when we tire of them, we can stroll on. After once you are tired of one writer or all these writers, you become tired. Obviously, you lost interest at some point. We can stroll on past a lady in black wearing diamonds, or to Samuel Johnson, and Goldsmith, and Garrick, or cross the channel. Some other writers, some other important writers, or cross the channel if we like. If you like, you can cross the channel. She mentioned about two of the geographical localities like London or Britain. And if you want, if you are tired of all these writers, you can cross the channel. Mean you can explore the literatures of other nations as well. You are not supposed to stay only in one nation. You are not supposed to stuck in one literature or the literature from just one particular nation only. Okay, if we like, we meet Voltaire, Diderot, Madame de Deffand, and so. I mean, they belong to yet another nations. They are not they are never discussed in literature of English because all of them belong to different other nations. The nationality is different. Still, they are writers of literature, great literature. So, if you are tired of looking into the details of the people belonging to the land of Britain, you can definitely go and in search of some other. You can cross the channel. The provision is open. You can cross the channel. And then, once you are okay, fine, you can go back to England and Twickenham. Twickenham. Which writer? Some writers belonging to Twickenham. Who is Wasp of Twickenham? Go and search. And how certain places repeat themselves and certain names. Certain places repeat themselves because of certain writers. Century after century, you have great national literary figures from there itself. Certain places never lost the prominence. Certain names also. Yeah, you talk about canonized. Even now you have Shakespeare study Shakespeare, Shakespearean drama. You have one paper, readings on Shakespeare. Why there is no readings on Marlowe? Why it is not a readings on Oscar Wilde even? They have their own prominence, but still some of them, their names are established with a double strength. That's all. Then the Lady Bedford had her park once and Pop lived later to Walpole's home at Strawberry Hill. Think about certain places where these people lived, and for that reason, just once they lived, certain persons used it to meet there. Some people used it to stay for a few years. Still, because of that reason, certain place names becoming prominent with that much established, they become part of the literary history. Those places. Sometime after, at a later point, you have museums in memory of these writers. So there are, yeah, some of the writers gathering spaces, gathering sports. All those you know as part of history study, studying history. Such as find of a new acquaint of their new acquaintances. There are so many houses to visit and bells to ring. So if you are in search of these people, you have a lot, so many places to visit, so many bells to ring. Means you have a number of writers who who demand your respect, who deserve the appreciation, who deserve mention. That we may well hesitate for a moment on Miss Bury's doorstep, for example, when behold up comes Thackeray. Something to something. These ideas have, may have something to do with their personal life, like their personal relationship. Miss Bury. Then you talk about Thackeray. He's the friend of the woman whom Walpole loved. You know how many such problems have been there in between these literary figures. Think about that. Even in see the last Yeats poem, we came across that. Even in between, while talking about the national revival, everything, Easter 1916, the bomb poetry is such a problem, and what see angry he is at the person who took away his lover. He did the worst crime. That's what he's told. So this personal life, personal events, all these are part and parcel of literary history. These people are prominent. Then think about this. So that merely by going from front to front, from garden to garden, from house to house, we have passed from one end of English literature to another. That is, all the sometimes these form part of the themes at a later stage. So this is about looking into their lives. It's almost like passing from one stage to another of English literature even. And wake up to find ourselves here against in the present. We are in our own present. My present is not that of my grandparents' present. Everyone is having their own present. Now, if we can so differentiate this moment from all that have gone before, this then is one of the ways in which we can read these lives and letters. We can make them light. We can make them light of the many windows of the past. We can watch the famous dead in their familiar habits. What did you come across all these ideas? Think about that. In Eliot, you come across such tradition, individual talent. In new historicism, cultural materialism, you come across this possibility. You can draw back connection. That's how you should read such literary pieces, such articles which are immediately connected with literature and criticism. We can read these lives and letters in this way. We can make them light up the many windows of the past, because you should not throw away the past completely. So, though Woolf was not really happy about the type like biography, autobiography. She's not actually completely against looking into the biographical details of these writers, at least to know them from a distance. We'll do better. We'll bring something better. We can watch the famous dead in their familiar habits and fancy sometimes that we are very close and can surprise their secrets. Like, oh, we have shared experience. We feel them very close to our, at least in certain point, at some points of their life. There are songs about losses, their conflicts in love. All these are universal themes, at least. Then, and sometimes we may pull out a play or poem that they have written and see whether it reads differently in the presence of the author. That is it. Think about that. Sometimes we may pull out a play or a poem that they have written and see whether it reads differently in the presence of the author. That is another way, biographical criticism and new criticism, or history-based criticism. Like you are in search of the writer, the details of the writer. You talk about reader response criticism and intentional fallacy, effective fallacy. All those are there. All these points you can bring in between. Very close, and you see fast. I just would like to mention that. Eliot, tradition. Try to connect the notion of tradition, individual talent. There itself. I'm not waiting for that paragraph to be closed. End it. Then you have the points regarding very close and presence of the author. How lighting up. Like yes. Here you have yet another point like new historicism. Cultural materialism. How one time, black. Should not be confused. So this is additional point that I get for you. That's all. Okay. So. And you can just think about the possibility to read that in the light of those points. That's all. Then that part is to be marked down in that way itself. And then, but this again rouses other questions. The presence of the author. When you read a poem or write any of the writings, connecting it with the biographical details of the writer is something different from when you read it as an independent work, independent from work to text. That's what we say. So independent text. Work always you attach the author, how connected his life, his experiences, his moral stand, his or her moral stand, his or her writing or life perspective, approach towards life. You try always to draw connection in between. But you can read it in a different way, like, without thinking about the presence of the author. So two readings, these two readings are different. But this again rouses other questions. How far must we ask, we must ask ourselves, is a book influenced by its writer's life? It's a question which is again controversial question, which can bring controversies. How far we must ask ourselves, as a book influenced by its writer's life? Obviously, you cannot deny that it has nothing to at least some of the conversation, at least some of the dialogues, at least a few paragraphs will definitely reflect The person's perspective. Sometimes they try to refine their perspectives. That's why you have ingenuine, insincere writings. Like you practice something entirely different. Your writings are very broad. Your themes are really broad, promoting freedom, individuality, everything. But in life, you are narrow. So you always you cannot say that your writings reflect what you are, but still have something to do that influence. That's my point. But what Virginia Woolf, she's asking a question. How far it is safe to let the man interpret this writer? Is it safe that every writer is interpreted or his or her life is deciphered on behalf of their writings, especially when it is about fiction? This is really tough. It is an autobiography. Yes, definitely the very nature of the publication gives you the tells you that yes, it's openly about my life. It's some percentage assurance as far as its nature is concerned. Autobiography, even if it is about biography, you cannot add something which is not part of the life of the person who is represented. Still, obviously, see coloring, everything is possible. Persons, people are writing an autobiography. When you're writing, you never guarantee or sign anywhere that you are writing only something true. You're trying to portray yourself to be very fine, very good, but you are in real life. You are not like that. You think about the scene in Crunchyroll movie where a person is preparing a biographical sketch for this person to apply for some Padma Shri or something. And every sentence that he builds up for him, he prepares for him, like he was very compassionate towards those who are poor, he was giving without any conditions. And at the same time, he is thinking back to his childhood, where he was pouring some, I think, just soil or something in a person's plate when the person is eating. Then again, this is entirely contrasting, and you cannot always guarantee that. Biographies get you, or autobiographies are true to life for some percentage with validity. With some percentage validity. And how far shall we resist or give way to the sympathies and antipathies that the man himself rouses in us? That the man himself rouses in us. So sensitive that words, so receptive of the character of the author. So words are obviously, we already know, words are so sensitive, especially after learning all these theories like post-structuralism, postmodernism. You know how sensitive words are. Then, and how one word can go, I see endless free play of signifies. It's about endless free play. You cannot stick somewhere. You cannot stick, see, endless free play signifiers you have, and the signifiers is a chain of signifier. So one word, you mean one thing, and the person who is interpreting takes it in a different way. You cannot file a case against that. That is the fluidity of words and meanings. They signify. So sensitive, words are sensitive. The tone itself can bring something entirely different from what you mean. And these are questions that press upon us when we read lives and letters. These are questions that press upon us when we read lives and letters, and we must answer them for ourselves. See, these questions, if those come in your mind, after the whole essay is about reading experience, how to approach books and all. So if you have such questions arising in your mind, you have to answer them for your own sake. And for nothing can be more fatal than to be guided by the preference of others in a matter so personal It's very fatal that you are instructed or led by some others' choices in matter so personal. Your reading, your interpretation, it's personal to you. It's your own personal affair. And no one is supposed to interrupt you in that matter. So that's the end of the paragraph. Actually, this essay in print form, as it is available to me, it's 58 pages, and we have finished up some 52. Sorry, yeah, 48 to 58, and now we are in page number 52. Okay, so that's all for the time being. Thank you so much for joining.